can't remember. Let's see. Oh, we are live and there's no countdown.
Surprise.
There you go. Jump right in. So welcome everyone to the Impact Tribe Conversation. This is where we meet, greet, and learn all about innovators who are bringing a positive impact to the world. I'm your host, Ashley Bright, and today I'm joined by Eric Zarko. Eric is the chairperson of the Dallas-Fort Worth Nonprofit Resource Group and also an account executive for Iconic IT. So welcome, Eric. Thank you so much for joining us.
How you doing, Ashley?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. You can
This
see
is like a 4-day weekend talking to you now.
There you go. There you go. Well, we didn't talk about this earlier, but my air conditioning is out. I'm waiting for a repair person. So fortunately, it's not too hot.
Yeah.
It's not too hot, but if I start to glisten, that's what it's all about.
I thought it would be all about me making you.
Oh, shoot. I shouldn't have let that out. Yes, it's all about you, Eric. And we'll talk about the Marvel superhero connection or the Scooby-Doo connection if that comes up. See, I planted the seed there. All right. So, Eric, why don't I gave you the little intro there, but I'd love to know a little bit more about you and kind of what you guys are doing and what DFW Nonprofit Resource Group is all about.
Wow. That's a loaded question.
Especially considering what we talked about just before we
Yeah, it really is. So the group is considered more of a fellowship of mission-minded professionals all throughout DFW that want to make a unique positive impact, not just for the community, but for the nonprofits that we support professionally and love on personally. Mm-hmm. So the group's been around for about 3.5, 4 years. And present day, I guess you could say there's 3 columns. The first is we're warmly referred to as the Angie's List for nonprofits. Second is we're a conduit of surplus. And I think you've kind of been seeing that posts that I've been putting up on LinkedIn. That has inspired more to contribute, if you will. And the third is we provide a unique platform for local nonprofits to host one of our monthly meetings. And recently, a couple of weeks ago, I lined at all the nonprofits that have reached out to us. Hey, we want to host. Hey, the pandemic kind of messed everything up for us. And I lined them all up that we were going into the second quarter of 2024. So we made a decision of the group, instead of just having one host meeting a month, now we're doing 2. It was really killing me that nonprofits were submitting host forms, and I had to tell them, hey, I'll talk to you in 2023. That doesn't serve, so the group just continues to evolve. And
that's great. I mean, it's nothing better than having more demand than you can deal with. I mean, in terms of people wanting to help, people wanting to put their voice out there, people wanting to connect and collaborate. In the little promo I did a couple days ago, I was describing you as an individual with abundant amounts of energy and positivity and connections. And I must see either an email or a post from you, if not every day, at least every other day. And, sharing new information, looking for support, looking for resources. And, it's cliched, but, it really is bigger in Texas. You're everywhere. You're doing everything.
It's not about me. It is, I have, it goes back a few years ago. More than a few years ago, that my friend wrote a book, and I know my friend through the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, and he does amazing work within the nonprofit, especially the veteran nonprofit space. Mm-hmm. He here in town, he does 2 celebrity softball games, and it's amazing. Dallas Cowboys here, Matthew McConaughey there, but his name's TK Klun. So TK, if you're watching this, love you, man.
There you go.
That that I read his book, and there was a chapter in his book that just like grabbed me, sucked me in, and it was about making sure we have the right circle of influence.
Mhm.
And that's where I feel that I'm at right now.
Mhm.
So as much as people say you have an abundant amount of X and you're all that, that's getting fostered by the group.
Mhm.
Because there's more of me's in the group, and we just feed off of one another. And the group, I tease the group to a degree that I marvel that 3 years ago, people were jumping on a bus that they knew the bus driver didn't know where that next bus stop was. And in present day, we're now structuring what seats are on the bus. So
Mhm.
we agreed a few weeks ago that the group needs a leadership team.
Mhm.
They need a steering team. And then we need, and I'm just, for lack of a term that we've coined yet, we need ambassadors of the group. So whenever this nonprofit gets connected to us because of surplus, sometimes they don't know this and this.
Mhm.
And they might host us for a meeting, but they don't know that we can help them out with surplus. So that's the world that, the Zarko verse that my friends like to say. Marvel fan, a lot of us, the Zarko verse.
All right, so you opened it up there with the Marvel reference, but we were just before we went live, we were discussing the Marvel superhero, Zarko, and what was the full name?
Like Man of Tomorrow or something.
Man of Tomorrow. And I don't know the history of that character, but I feel like it's apt that and I think it's interesting. I appreciate where you're coming from, that it's not about you, but I think the last piece of those three things I said, positivity, energy, and connections, I think that is that critical piece that you provide, is really bringing people together, building those relationships. And I love the idea of like we're on this bus and we're not quite sure where we're going, and we're not quite sure who's driving and how this is working, but that's where kind of the incredible opportunity, in my experience, that's where the incredible change happens, because you're not overthinking it, you're not being super logical, you're just saying that this is something that I'm moved to do, and others are moved as well, and we're just jumping in, and we'll figure it out, and sometimes those make, years from now, those make for the best stories. Along the way it can be a little bumpy.
It's amazing that in the past handful of years, people have said things to me that I would have never thought that things were being. It's more like terms, or tags. Somebody says I have blind brilliance.
There you go.
Okay, maybe 10 years ago I'd find that insulting. Now it's like, heck yeah, why not? Why not do what makes us feel good? What, the intuition, the good spirit, good stewards. And I was going on the blind brilliance. Yeah, so you introduced me as the founder and chair of the group and the account executive of Iconic. Mm-hmm. Within Iconic, we have about 100 and something employees. Within Iconic, nobody refers to me as the account executive. I'm the mascot of Iconic. And I'm soon to get business cards. This is insane. That says chief mascot.
I love it.
That again, another 10 years, I see more companies having a chief mascot. A few years ago, nobody heard what a CXO was.
Yep.
And now, companies are gravitating towards that mentality that you need to have an experienced person in the C-suite. So.
Yep. Yep. Or culture is another big one, really understanding kind of what is the culture we're creating. And I always think about, that whole notion of, I have no doubt about my intent. I don't exactly know how I'm going to get there. I don't exactly know all the pieces and where they fit, but I have no doubt about the intention. And I've always loved that as a rallying cry to kind of just keep me moving forward. And it feels like, whether that's blind brilliance or, the Zarkoverse or whatever you want to call it. It's energy that's drawing people in or drawing people together and bringing about change. So let me ask you, sort of on that point, what is it about sort of the work that you're doing or the way you're engaged with the community that gets you fired up? What is it? What keeps you going?
There's
and there's no limit. You can have a long list.
I love that. I love the feeling that I get when I see people on this bus rising a little bit more, challenging themselves. And mind you, this bus is a group of, you could say, community volunteers that once they're on the bus longer, they're doing more volunteering. And then that becomes contagious. And then the bus starts to have this vibe. And now we're looking, how can we make positive change? Except, and so that's what I'm like feeling right now, is I'm looking at this group, and the group internally suggested that we have a leadership team to take some weight off of my shoulders. And then the ambassadors can help foster and nurture the relationships within the community. And a couple people were saying, well, you're building a company, you don't even know it. And I don't want it to be a company. I don't want it to be a nonprofit. It's just a unique spirit that there's some people outside of Texas that it's hard for them to think that there's no membership to be a part of this group. And there is none. If there's an expense of somehow, it's a shared expense. Hey, we got this going on. Everybody chips in, and it's just, I keep pulling on the word unique. Yeah. And it's just a unique feeling that it could come from the last event that we did. 27 box trucks got filled up with brand new home furnishing. That was amazing. That was, and then to talk to the sponsor of all the surplus, they shared with me that historically they would always give it to like one nonprofit. And because they're connected to us, wow, they just touched 27 nonprofits. And my group handled all the logistics. And to provide a service to one of the largest home furnishing companies. So it's like, wow. Looking away from that is like, wow, we serve the nonprofit community, and we served somebody that had a huge philanthropic heart, but because of their work demands, if you will, what was easiest was to just give it all to one nonprofit. And
no, that's amazing. I mean, that's, that power of, again, going back to that word I mentioned, connection, those relationships. And, many times, they don't know what they don't know. And so having that connection, having that bridge is allowing that impact to be exponentially larger. And I love that. And so you mentioned, very early in that section, you mentioned challenges. And so I'd love to hear sort of what are some of the challenges that you or the group are encountering, and how are you addressing them?
We had challenge of streamlining communication, and it's not communication of what we're doing next. It was communication of what we talked about and we've never done. So part of the unofficial leadership lunch that we had a couple weeks ago, that I driving away from that lunch, I talked to a friend that it felt like there was positive collusion rolling into this lunch.
Mm-hmm.
That there was 6 of us, and it was unanimous that we need a leadership team. We need a way to help Eric vet the next member. We need help with a note taker.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have like a wonderful note taker. List everything out, keep us on point. And then the ambassadors. Then the biggest problem or the biggest challenge that we had, and it was a beautiful challenge, was there were so many nonprofits in our queue that we were reaching out to 2024. And very quickly and nimbly, it made sense to go, okay, let's do 2 a month.
Yep.
It could be by the time we hit 2022, we're doing 3 a month.
Yeah.
Or 4 a month. Who knows? Yeah, so it, growth comes shining a couple things, putting a new tool in place, new process in place, new procedure in place. Speaking of which, the vetting process I shared that the group felt that, why don't we divide and conquer the vetting process? So last Friday, I had a coffee meeting with a fractional CFO that only works with nonprofits. Reached out to the group, hey, we want to be a member, or I want to be, a contributor. And one of the people that on my leadership team, I was like, hey, you want to roll with me? They're like, yeah, okay, I'd love to see how you do this, Eric. And this particular person is a CEO of a moderately sized nonprofit here in DFW. So within 3 minutes, this fractional CFO is in the group. And it blew my friend's mind that she was like, is that all you do? And I'm like, it depends on the person. That I normally like to start with the name game and the common connections on LinkedIn. Hey, we're connected to these 12 people. How do you know these 6? Oh, you're in my circle of influence. You didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the family. And my friend Dina was like, okay, is it that easy? I'm like, for me, it is. Granted, if it was, I don't know them, whatever. We hear it all with common connections on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But if they don't pass that initial test, then there's different questions.
Yeah.
But it seems like more and more the people reaching out to be a part of the group, they're already in the group and they don't even know it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, and there you go. I think that's again about that energy, that collective vibe that you're putting out there. And, again, not knowing how this is going to happen, but getting to a point where you're like, okay, we need this additional, we need this fractional role. We need this person coming in to help us structure some things. And, I think it's so interesting. I have this discussion oftentimes when I'm with nonprofits or for-profit, but how the cross-pollination that's necessary, between those sorts of organizations. Cause you've got, people in the for-profit space that like, this is old hat, oh, you need this role or you need that insight or this process, this operation. And, many times in the nonprofit space, someone is doing that because they're passionate about this larger cause and this larger impact, but they don't have any training. They don't have exposure to this. And they need someone, again, the right connections to say, hey, you need this, or what would really solve this problem is X. And, again, build those relationships, make those connections.
I'm incredibly blessed that my employer is Iconic IT. And because of that, gave birth to this passion that's not sponsored by Iconic. A quarter of all of our clients we support them from an outsourced IT department. So you can just imagine the type of relationships we already have with these nonprofits. And the story goes, like 4 years ago, I asked one of the founders, I'm like, hey, is our book of business mission friendly? And then they goes, no, we've been around for 20 years. And these are people that we collected through work in the networking scene. And that gave birth to that mission-friendly partner list, if you will. And now the community is referring to the group as the Angie's list for nonprofits. So we're also providing a value-added service, not just for the iconic clients, but for Frost Bank that's in the group. Mm-hmm. They have a whole arm that does nothing but loan and lend money to nonprofits. Then we have Sutton Frost Carey, that's an accounting firm. And all they do is tax work and CPA work for about 70-something nonprofits. So whenever they can go back to their clients and go, hey, you need help with X, meet the DFW Nonprofit Resource Group. Look at our directory. So it helps nonprofits through their due diligence process if they're trying to navigate waters. And you know enough nonprofit leaders that they all struggle surrounding themselves with mission-friendly business partners.
Yep.
So that's that Angie's list, Phil.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm curious. So we've talked a little bit about just sort of the breadth of the community you serve, the people you serve, and the way you build connections. Are there particular sort of niches that you focus on? Are there particular causes that really rise to the top for you guys?
No. It's really those that serve the community. Mm-hmm. We want to help them. You just imagine 27 different nonprofits showing up for the home furnishing event. Yeah. Each one of them. Some of them may have overlapped. Yeah. But there were so many different. One that deals with only children. One that deals only with human trafficking. Mm-hmm. One that only does for the LGBT community. Yeah. One that only so it one's cancer, one's health, one's domestic abuse, one's this, and that's where on that bus I see people going, wow, I've always helped the food insecurity place. Now I can help. Mm. And that's really cool. Yeah. That is, and there's some people that, they give their money to the library foundation all the time. And it's great. But this group provides them another ability just to touch them all. Mm-hmm. And so we're not biased by no means. If you help our community, we're loving on you some way, shape, or form.
That's awesome. So I'm curious, it seems like you're attracting this energy you put out there as an organization. You're attracting, really mission-driven individuals, both for-profit, nonprofit, and individuals within the community. Do you run into kind of like biases, people that have certain opinions about how nonprofit should work, or the challenge? Are there things like that you're running up against, or communication challenges? Or is it's just generally a very welcoming sort of response to what you guys are doing?
If you're asking that question based on the contributors of the group, like mm-hmm. who's inside the group,
or externally, do you know?
The only things along that answers to that question is there is a misconception out there because of all that we're doing and who's in the group, that it's membership driven. Mm. That if we touch a nonprofit, we're going to require them to, sign up for something. Yeah. And the contributing. Yeah. And it's like, wow. And maybe 3 years ago, it would make sense that there's no catch. Yeah. Because we didn't even have a website. It was just, now, people are hearing about me across the country, and the community, that mascot hat, mm-hmm. it's like hundreds of nonprofits know about the group, and 60 mission-minded professionals in the group talk about the group like it is. I don't know. It's just very, it's surreal sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we talked a little bit about this before we went live, but on that point, you said, you're starting to be recognized sort of outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth community. And you mentioned that within the community, people are, they know what you do and they're aware of you. What sort of challenges have you been running into in terms of how to communicate that to the broader audience outside of that community? What you do and who you serve?
Yeah. I like to, and sometimes whenever we're on these types of calls, VCAS or podcasts, there's only a certain amount of time, and you really don't know why somebody's asking the question. That the people that I'm meeting outside of Texas, they struggle, that I can't just rattle off in one simple mission statement. But now that I say that, and knowing who you work with for the nonprofits, they almost need to have that to help them with their maybe grants, with their community financial support. We are not a nonprofit. So my mind is, the moment I have something, we're going to be in a box. And if I had something 3 years ago with, let's just say, just the Angie's list, we would not have been doing the platform to give nonprofits the stage, or we would have just kept changing things and we are changing, but we don't have to change print. We don't have to change anything. And the surplus, we would never have gotten that if I, in my opinion, went, this is the box.
Yep.
We are, professional resources for nonprofits. And so that's sometimes, from an outside perspective, it's confusing what we do. And I'm totally cool with that, because in this community, the one that we serve, and we also have a second chapter in Kansas. So within Wichita, Kansas, they know about the group.
Are you interested in broadening that in terms of like having more sort of satellite groups? Is that something?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Well, that would be amazing. And I can tell you from experience that there is gonna be a need to define, and I don't mean define in terms of a box or to minimize the impact, but I can see the need for clarity. And it could just be clarity to open the door. This is something that's very true in the nonprofit space and the for-profit space, entrepreneurs, that what they do broadly is kind of huge, and we impact this, we impact that, and we have these products, services, etc. But in order to kind of like open that dialogue, get that foot in the door, there's often that need to, okay, what's our, I've heard it referred to as our marquee message or our marquee offering. And it's the thing that kind of gets your foot in the door, so that then someone can say, okay, tell me more. And does that make sense?
It does, but we don't have that problem.
There.
It is, but I see value in the marquee, but that's where people from the outside looking in think that we have those challenges.
Okay.
And
they're looking to put you in a box. They're looking to find a problem, and you're like, we ain't got a problem.
And one of the I think our mutual friends that run the nonprofit show in California.
Oh yeah.
They were like baffled that our monthly meetings are now, they're the second and third Tuesday of the month at 2:00. They were trying to wrap. They're like, normally groups like yours meet after hours or in the morning, and I'm like, I didn't know any better.
We just made it a priority. What's the problem?
2:00 works for me.
Yep.
And now, when the nonprofits have their respective lunches with one another, that Wednesday, I can predict that I'm getting 3 or 4 nonprofits reaching out to their website. Hey, I want to host. Hey, I want to host you. Hey, I want to host you.
Yeah.
That
it's a great problem not to have. So that's wonderful. So let me ask you this. How can people who are listening to this, how can they support you, learn more about you, help you increase your impact? What would you like to, how can people help you, I guess is the question.
Get connected to me on LinkedIn. And it's not Zarko, the guy of tomorrow that you were trying to say. It's, find me on LinkedIn, Eric Zarko, Zarko. Hit me up on our group's website, DFW Nonprofit Resource Group.com. Get connected with me because I have a feeling, the group will be expanding in various cities.
That is awesome. That is awesome, my friend. We're at time here, and I want to be respectful of your schedule because I know you've probably got a lot to do. But I just wanted to thank you so much for being here and chatting with us and sharing, and also just on the bigger scale for all the amazing things you are helping facilitate. And I say you as a group,
Thank you.
Connections, the relationships, and the tremendous impact that you're having and will continue to have. So thank you.
Much appreciated, and nice to see you again.
All right, my friend. Well, have a wonderful weekend, and don't be a stranger. Not like that's ever a problem for you.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, my friend.